Hello everyone. Today we dive into a great winter poem in English literature, The Darkling Thrush by Thomas Hardy. This poem is filled with gloom, decay and surprisingly hope. To mark the end of 19th century and the dawn of the 20th, Thomas Hardy composed a deeply reflective poem originally titled By the Century's Deathbed. It was first published in The Graphic on 19 December 1900 and later renamed The Darkling Thrush dated 31st December 1900. The poem was included in Hardy's 1901 collection Poems of the Past and the Present. Though set in a bleak wintry landscape, the poem is rooted in quiet optimism. It captures Hardy's contemplation of a changing world filled with doubt and decay, yet pierced by the unexpected song of a thrush symbolizing a glimmer of hope. Through this powerful contrast, the poem suggests a timeless truth. Sorrow is often followed by joy, just as winter eventually gives way to spring. This interplay of despair and hope, darkness and light forms the heart of the Darkling Thrush. Let's start. Stanza 1. I leaned upon a Coppice gate when frost was Spectre grey. The poet leans on a gate to a small woodland or coppice on a cold, ghostly grey winter evening. The word Spectre grey uses metaphor and visual imagery. The word spectre means ghost or spirit. Hardy compares the frost with ghost or spirit. So spectre grey paints an image of something pale, shadowy and ghost-like. It evokes a sense of death, decay and supernatural stillness, as if winter itself has turned into a ghost. And winter's dregs made desolate the weakening eye of day. The last remains or dregs of winter have made everything barren and the dimming sun looks feeble. The sun is personified as having a weakening eye. It symbolizes the decline of the year and metaphorically the end of an era. The tangled vine stems coat the sky like strings of broken lyres. Leafless climbing plants look like scratches across the sky, resembling the snapped strings of musical instruments. The comparison to broken lyres reflects the absence of harmony and joy in nature. Like a strings of broken lyres, it's a simile. And all mankind that haunted nigh had sought their household fires. People nearby have gone indoors, seeking warmth and safety by their fires. There is a sense of withdrawal, lifelessness, and fear. Society is hiding from the outside gloom. Stanza 2. The land's sharp features seem to be the century's corpse outlined. The landscape appears like the dead body of the 19th century stretched out in death. Here Hardy uses metaphor. The land represents the dying century, that is 19th century, suggesting pessimism about progress. In these lines, Hardy gives human characteristics to non-human things. The land is described as having sharp features as though it were a human face with bones or angles. Hardy uses this personification to reflect the harsh, bare winter landscape, possibly with snow-covered ridges or leafless hills. And the 19th century is described as a corpse dead lying stretched out. The land is seen as the physical body of the dying century. Outline suggests it is laid out for burial like a human corpse prepared for a funeral. This is abstract personification, an idea the century is shown as human and mortal. He scribed the cloudy canopy, the wind his death lament. The sky is his tomb, the wind howls like a funeral song. Nature itself mourns the death of time, spirit, and hope. It's a metaphor and personification. The ancient pulse of germ and death was shrunken hard and dry. Nature's cycle of life, of growth and birth, has stopped. Everything feels dried up and dead, and every spirit upon earth seemed fervorless as I. Everyone in the world, like the poet, lacks passion or hope. Hardy expresses universal hopelessness. It's not just personal but collective despair. Stanza 4. At once a voice arose among the bleak twigs overhead. Suddenly a bird begins to sing from the bare, lifeless branches above. This is a turning point. Amid the bleakness, a new voice breaks the silence. In a full hearted event song of joy illimited. The song is strong, joyful, and boundless like a hymn sung in the evening. The bird song introduces unexpected optimism and divine beauty. The poet compares bird song to sacred hymn. The poet overstates joy to stress hope against all odds. It's a hyperbole. An aged thrush, frail, gaunt, and small, in blast beruffled plum. The singer is an old, weak, scruffy thrush bird ruffled by the storm. The bird is physically unremarkable but spiritually strong. Blast beruffled is an alliteration by repeating B sound. Had chosen thus to fling his soul upon the growing gloom. Yet he throws his whole being into his song against the darkness. The bird's act becomes symbolic of hope and resilience amid despair. The bird is personified as a conscious, emotional being singing not just instinctively but deliberately and passionately, as if offering his whole being to fight the darkness. It shows even something small and frail, the aged thrush, can express courage, hope, and spiritual strength. The word gloom literally means darkness or dimness. But in the context of the poem, gloom symbolizes emotional and spiritual despair, the hopelessness Hardy feels at the end of the 19th century. It represents the uncertain future, the death of old values, and a world without inspiration or vitality. The bird is not just singing into the night, it is singing into despair itself. His voice becomes a symbol of resistance, of hope breaking through hopelessness. Stanza 4. So little cause for carolings of such ecstatic sound. There seems no reason for such joyful singing in such a grim world. The contrast between reality and the bird's joy highlights the mystery of hope. Was written on terrestrial things afar or nigh around. Nothing in the world, near or far, seems to justify the bird's joyful outburst. It suggests the joy might come from something not for this world. That I could think there trembled through his happy good night air. The speaker begins to feel that the bird's song carries a trembling sense of hope. This line suggests a faint emotional awakening in the speaker. Some blessed hope whereof he knew, and I was unaware. The bird may possess some divine hope unknown to the speaker. The speaker observes the thrush singing joyfully in a bleak, lifeless world. He feels that perhaps the bird is aware of some blessed hope, a positive force or reason for joy, that the poet himself does not understand or feel. The poem ends with ambiguity. The hope is not proven, but it's possible. So, Thomas Hardy's The Darkling Thrush is a reflective and symbolic poem set at the close of the 19th century. The speaker stands by a gate on a cold, bleak winter evening, observing a lifeless landscape that seems to mirror the emotional and spiritual decay of time. Nature appears dead, the century feels like a corpse, and all human vitality seems drained. As the gloom deepens, a sudden and surprising event occurs. An aged frail thrush bursts into song. Its voice, full of joy and passion, rises through the stillness of the wintry world. The bird seems to sing not in response to its surroundings but in defiance of them, choosing to pour its soul into the darkening air. The poet is puzzled by this joy, for nothing in the world seems to justify it. Yet he wonders if the thrush knows of some hidden blessed hope, a hope that he himself cannot see or understand. The poem ends on this quiet note of uncertainty, holding space for the possibility of hope amid despair and faith amid doubt.